High Point University presents Lessons in Leadership, a Roundtable Discussion is a production of UNC-TV in association with High Point University.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to High Point University. This is yet one more discussion with some thought leaders and men and women who have done something significant in their life. And we invite them to this campus to share their ideas with our students and to inspire our staff and to compel all of us that life is about a continuum of learning. And the more we learn in this ever-changing time in which we live, the better we become as leaders. On this platform, we've had all kinds of wonderful leaders over time. We've had scientists like Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut. We've had people like Steve Wozniak, who's the co-founder of Apple Computer, who really got our students thinking about technology and the future. We've had thought leaders like Malcolm Gladwell, voted by Time magazine as one of the 100 thought leader of all time. And in the next 2 or 3, 4 months, we're going to welcome to this campus Colin Powell and John Maxwell, 2 fabulous leaders in their own right. And over time, we've had 2 or 3 dozen like that. Our students believe that this institution provides holistic education, that we graduate students who understand life and who are prepared for it in measurable and meaningful ways. And likewise, they want experiential learning. And so this afternoon, it is my privilege to introduce 3 wonderful people. You're going to enjoy each of them, and you're going to enjoy all of them. Each brings a perspective about leadership that is profoundly useful, that is framed with purpose, and that is definitely based on their experience. First, I want to introduce to you a marvelous entrepreneur, a guy who has been actually voted Entrepreneur of the Year. He's a man who founded Red Ventures in the year 2000. Today, he has 2,000 employees, does business across America and the world. And this is a person who took an idea and through sheer leadership and commitment and tenacity built a fabulous business. He attended Boston University and Harvard University and graduated from both. Would you please help me welcome Ric Elias? Secondly, let me introduce to you a man who leads the 9th largest financial institution in the United States of America, a man who oversees an organization with 35,000 employees, $185 billion in assets, a person who has been voted by Institutional Investor magazine as one of the top 3 CEOs in the nation, a guy who's held his organization firmly and successfully in the midst of the most disrupted economic times we've all seen in the last 65 years of America's history, a guy I respect profoundly, Mr. Kelly King. And the third panelist with us today is a lady who charted her own course throughout her life. This is a lady who gets things done. She's a mover and a shaker. The President of the United States appointed her as the United States Ambassador to Finland, and she represented all of us with dignity and with protocol. She is a lady who founded Pace Communications, which is the company that publishes many of the magazines that you see on airlines across America and beyond, and does the same thing through marketing activities of all kinds for some leading hotel chains and organizations that are successful in our nation. This is a lady who serves as the chairman of American Red Cross National Board. I'm delighted that she is back at High Point University, Bonnie McElveen-Hunter. So I don't know when I was more excited about having 3 guests at High Point University talking about a subject that all of us relate to, leadership, than I am this afternoon. In part, I think, because I know these 3 people pretty well, and I am privileged to call each of them and all of them my dear friends. And so I can dig a little deeper than maybe sometimes I can dig in these questions, much to your advantage. So pay close attention and take notes. I would like to begin this in an informal way and just sort of ask a question. We're going to talk about leadership. We have students here today. We have some faculty. We have a lot of community leaders, a lot of people watching by television, and some who will read about this gathering. And I want to begin by simply asking the question, what was the best advice? We'll begin with you, Rick. What was the best advice you received about becoming an effective leader?
Well, good afternoon. It's good to be here, so thanks for inviting me. There's, along the way, you collect so much wisdom, but the one that stands the test of time is when I was asked, when I was told that to be an effective leader, ultimately I had to be authentic. And to me, authentic means that I had to be true to who I am. And what I've learned over many years of experimentation is that leadership is something that never ends. It's a journey that you're in, and the only way to be grounded is to be authentic. And the only way you can evolve and not lose who you are is to always come back to what do I believe. And that's not often popular. That's not often what the crowds will want. But if you can maintain that authenticity, I think you have a better chance at evolving as a leader.
So Rick, this is a good time for me to bring this up. I hope you don't mind me bringing this up. Rick had a life-changing experience. He was on U.S. Airways, the one that went down in the Hudson River. And take it from there.
I just bought a lucky ticket on a plane. I didn't really. It's hard to take any credit other for having. It's a wonderful gift when you have 90 seconds to say goodbye to your life, when you have no belief that you're going to live, but you're not suffering, when you can really kind of take a hard look, and then getting a chance to do it again. This happened 5 years ago, this coming January, and I don't think it's a coincidence that our company has grown 40% a year since that day, because I think it changed who I am and very much changed who I am as a leader. I think ultimately I realized that I was going to enjoy every second of this journey. And I talk about I collect bad wines because I drink all my good ones. It's true. But that's how I approach that level of purpose and intensity is the way I approach my leadership role.
Well, give us a little more juice. What happened when you landed in the water? And were you drinking wine at the time?
Unfortunately, they had not passed out any drinks, right? But, no, it was very calm. Like I knew I was dead. So it wasn't like I was wondering. If anything, I was hoping it would blow up and not break into 20 pieces. It's New York City, January 15th. It's very cold. And I remember my mental countdown. For those who fly a lot, you almost don't need to look at the runway. You're not going to hit. You almost like your body feels it, maybe the speed, maybe the shades. And I remember 10, 9, 8. And I remember a thought. And it was like, I only wish I could see my kids grow up. And my kids at the time were 6 and 7. The simplicity of that thought, meaning the clarity around purpose for me, has been defining. And I think bringing back that thought into leadership, into our company, I think has been an important part of our evolution.
And all that gives authenticity even greater meaning. Kelly, about you, who did you get the best advice about leadership, and what was it?
Well, this was the president of the company when I joined a long time ago. And after I'd been with the company for a couple of years and was doing relatively well, he really helped me immensely, because he said to me one day, it is not about you, it is about them, meaning the team. Because in all fairness, even though I'm not proud of this, when I grew up very poor and went to school and worked hard and got good grades and got a good job and got promoted, and I just was on this linear track of thinking that I had to do it all. And that hit me like a really cold bucket of ice right in the face, because I had never even thought about that. I mean, I wasn't trying to do it for for the purpose of getting acclaim or recognition. I was just trying to climb out of the hole I came from and not go back there, hopefully. But when he said that, it made me go through a process of really introspective thinking about what that meant. And I think that's probably been one of the most important revelations for me, because it really is true. Any effective leader that goes about their business trying to claim credit, trying to make sure everybody knows that I've got all the answers, may achieve some level of worldly success, but they will never achieve a sense of self-esteem and a sense of happiness. And so it has helped me enormously. I must admit, I continue to work on that every day, because I am absolutely committed to the idea that if I can create an environment so my associates can learn and grow and be fulfilled in their work, then they'll be enormously successful. I'll take great sense of pride in that. It'll turn out that I'll be successful as well, but when that's not your objective, it's a much more peaceful journey.
I want to ask you this later, not now, but I want to ask you, how does one do that with 35,000 employees? How does one create a culture by which these employees would feel the esteem that you want them to feel, and would contribute in ways that can be channeled effectively through such a large organization with a footprint that crosses so much of America? Well, Madam Ambassador, we're glad to have you here, and I know that, because I've heard you say before, a great piece of advice you've got about leadership and about life. What would that be?
Well, I think I'd want to share, Dr. Qubein, my mother's pearls of wisdom, because I believe everybody has a foundation that we build our lives on, and mine are still those very early words that my mother shared with me, but not only words, but action. So my mother's pearls of wisdom are: time is precious, use it wisely, mediocrity is the greatest sin, work is the greatest privilege, failure is a comma, never a period, and can't is a word that does not exist. In fact, we were living in Bossier City, Louisiana, and my mother had my brother, sister, and I write the word can't on a piece of paper. We put it in a shoebox. She took us to the backyard with a shovel and instructed us to dig. We did. We put the shoebox in, the hole, we covered it, and she told us the word can't has been buried forever in Bossier City. So I grew up with the understanding that with hard work, with God's help, and the knowledge that you can achieve anything, that the possibilities were unlimited. Mm.
Did you sing any songs as you planted this cant under the ground?
I couldn't sing while I worked.
That's amazing. So authenticity, teamwork, tenacity, commitment, belief in yourself, all of that. What are some other traits that if a student were writing here in this house today some notes, what would be another one or two traits that you believe are prerequisites for sustainable, effective leadership?
I think one of the things along the line of what I was mentioning earlier is that, once you get clear about how a team really works, is to be sure that as a leader that you invest in the growth of your team. And that's really, in a difficult economic environment like we're in today, that's a real challenge, because most CEOs, when they get ready to cut costs, that's one of the first line items they go to. They go to marketing and they go to leadership and training, which is absolutely backward. I mean, because you're never going to be effective in satisfying your clients' needs if you don't have really good associates, and never going to have good associates if you don't have good training and development. So always be willing to invest your first dollar in growing your people. And then always be willing to be the first to applaud the performance of others. Whether it's your immediate team, whether it's your associates that you work beside, whether it's your superior. If you'll always be focusing on giving others that positive reinforcement, that recognition, then it rejuvenates, re-energizes, re-motivates the team, and it's very empowering on an ongoing basis.
You know, Kelly, one of the things that I've heard you talk about very persuasively, I must say, is this formula that you teach all of these associates at BB&T, that if you want to get better results in life, it is not enough to just behave in the best ways, but rather it is beliefs.
Yeah. So years ago, I developed a strong interest in really, you know, is leadership effective, and can you teach leadership? I actually did a thesis on it in a graduate banking school. Because what I observed up to that point in my career was that most managers, I emphasize managers versus leaders, focus on results. So they say, go out and make more widgets, go out in our business, get more loans, get more deposits. And the problem with that is it's counterproductive, because I find that most people get up in the morning and they come to work and they're doing the best they can do. You know, rarely you'll have somebody slouching, but most people come in to kind of doing the best they can do. So if you just hammer them on more results, you're just creating anxiety and frustration, and they get less productive. More advanced managers realize that if you're going to change the results, you have to change the behaviors, so good training, good education, et cetera. But very few get the genius of leadership, which is that if you're going to have sustained behavioral efforts over a long period of time, you have to change the beliefs, because people behave in a manner that is consistent with their beliefs.
So leadership is fed internally from one's heart, one's soul, but it's also fed externally by the associates and the partners that one surrounds himself or herself with, as you've just outlined. Jack Welch once said the following. He said, before you are a leader, success is all about growing yourself. When you become a leader, success is all about growing others, which is effectively what you're really saying, that a leader has a responsibility to plant seeds of greatness in the life of others, to inform them, to involve them, to inspire them every day, in every way. So this whole thing about culture interests me, because if you look at any organization in America that's really doing well, and doing well in a sustainable way, including any university or any nonprofit, the reality of it is culture has to be evolved and nourished and nurtured. How do you do that? Bonnie, how do you do that? I mean, I heard what you said. You empower them, you hire right people, smart people, you empower them. But how does one maintain that culture in spite of the fact that some people leave, some people come in, duties change, market conditions place pressure upon one's company and therefore one's team?
Well, I think when we hire smart people, we also hire people in an environment where they're allowed to make mistakes. And I think one of the things about failure is that we ought to embrace it. And everybody up here will talk to you about success, but I think it's also important to know how to be a failure. Sometimes failure is the most important thing that happens to us in our lives, that really is a defining moment. And I just tell one quick personal story, and I apologize for another bank, but I started my life out as a banker, and it really was not necessarily the right place for my interests and skills and talents. And so this past year I received an Entrepreneur of the Year award, and it was named after a banker, Hugh McCall. And he was the one that fired me.
That's why they gave you the award. They felt guilty.
No. Well, not exactly him. But I think the point of it was 40 years later, 35 years later, I'm so grateful that I had the opportunity to find out that my life then, and banking has changed very much today, and it's very marketing driven. At that time it was a loan platform. It was basically a group of middle-aged men. And my aspirations were different, and honestly I felt that as a woman, my opportunities were more in a place where I could be rewarded for results as opposed to a salary. And so I think one of the things, I just am concerned that young people don't realize, it's great to fail. But if you get up, benefit from that experience, apply the things that you've learned, the wisdom that you've learned, you're really ahead of the game as you get up and move forward. So I just think it's fear is also a great motivator. So in our company, we allow people to fail. And we have an environment where we are not risk averse. And it's okay. But what did we learn from it? And keep going. But I think also today, as Eric was mentioning, the world is we are more removed. We sometimes aren't right in front of our customers and our clients and the relationships. And I think it does change. I had the privilege of hearing Bill Gates when he met Ambassador Annenberg. And the question that was proposed to them in this meeting was, well, what is the biggest issue facing the world today? And actually Bill Gates said the chasm that will exist between those that will have access to knowledge and those that will not. And Ambassador Annenberg said, the death of civility. So I think both have a very important place, but I think we treat our employees as we would treat our customers.
It's a very powerful point you made. In this very theater this morning, I taught our freshmen, I teach this freshman seminar at High Point, I teach also the senior seminar, and I take a little license with this point about failure, and I boldly say that those who are afraid to fail may not be fully deserving of succeeding. In other words, there is a price that we have to pay. Maybe this is why immigrants, like Rick, immigrants to America tend to do on average significantly better than born Americans, because they take this enormous risk of coming to America, starting from nothing, and then they give fruit to their investment. So Kelly, I'm back to that question. 35,000 people in a geographic footprint that goes from Florida all the way up to Maryland and beyond, and there are offices all over the country. I mean, how do you, as chairman, CEO, stay in touch with these individuals? How can you really measurably influence their behavior and their beliefs, to use your formula's pieces? And how does one do that in a sustainable way?
Well, I just want to emphasize one point that Rick made in terms of an important way to continue the culture, and that is hiring people that fit with the culture. We try very hard. We have a very elaborate interview process to try to make sure, as best you can, recognizing a lot of folks we are hiring are right out of college and they're 22 years old, and their personality and values haven't been fully formed. But to the extent that we can, we try to get alignment there. And even when we're doing mergers, the first step in doing a merger is whether or not we think it's a cultural fit. I don't care how good it is economically. If it's not a cultural fit, we don't go to second base. So that's critical. But in terms of the ongoing development and continuity of the culture, to be honest, it's very hard. It requires a lot of work. And I can't say that we are perfect, but I'll tell you some things we do. So for example, we bring in our folks right out of college into a 9-month leadership development program. And when they go through that program, they've got 9 months of being immersed into our culture. They hear from myself, all of our senior leaders, they get 9 months of heavy-duty BB&T culture. And when they leave, they have drank the Kool-Aid. And so we sprinkle them through the organization. So I want to send people to Texas and Miami and Baltimore because they are the emissaries in terms of sharing the culture. We constantly bring people in to training, even though it might be more cheaply done out there somewhere. We bring them to Winston-Salem because we want them to be in the home office environment around the culture. We go out there a lot. I travel to all of our 37 regions at least once a year, a full day. And when I'm there, I'll eat breakfast with 40 or 50 of our tellers and relationship bankers, answer questions for them, meet with the senior leadership team, meet with all of the officers, the board members, go around, visit branches, just to keep making that touch face-to-face and reinforcing the culture. And then we do something, Nido, that I think has helped, and I know you teach a lot of communication skills here, and so we use a quarterly video where each quarter, immediately after releasing earnings, I do a 30, 45 minute, sometimes hour video. We have other folks on the video, but the primary purpose of the video is for me to reinforce to our associates, congratulations, this is how we've done. These are the challenges. And by the way, let me just reinforce to you again why we're really here. Vision, mission, values. And when you do that over and over and over, it just kind of permeates the organization. I tell people, I say, you know, why do you think when you go to church, the preacher preaches basically the same sermon 52 weeks a year? You know, just kind of trying to continuously indoctrinate you in terms of those beliefs. And my job is really no different, nor is any leader's job, in my humble opinion. But I think a lot of leaders do not do as well as they could because it does take a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of travel, a lot of being out there. And some people just abdicate that. They delegate it too far into the organization, and it's not effective.
Mm-hmm. Ric, your business is very labor intensive. You've got a couple of thousand people, and yet your business is very dependent on the technological innovation that you create and that you instill in the organization to succeed, to beat any competition, to ensure that profitability is an all-time high and that you're growing at 30, 40% a year. So I'm interested to know what role does creativity play in the development and evolution of leaders? And you mentioned technology a moment ago, that it might impede some human connection. This technology and this creativity, are they going together? Are we becoming less creative as a society or more creative? And while you think of the best answer you can give me, I would like to read you something that refers to the creativity crisis. This is a trend that's going on. It was defined by a major study in 2011. Researchers looked at a common measure of creativity in 300,000 kids and adults over time and found that unlike IQ scores, creativity had been declining in America since 1990. The effect was most marked in elementary school-aged kids. What exactly creativity measures are declining is still anyone's guess, the study cites, although evidence and intuition points to the growing emphasis on testing in education as a factor. Kids are taught to learn by understanding, and I quote, the one right answer, close of quote, they need to find, and what they need to do to find it. On tests of how kids do at brainstorming ideas, 98% of 3-year-olds register as creative geniuses. By the time they're 25, only 2% of them register in that category. Hence, the creativity crisis. You have a lot of young people working at your company. Wouldn't you say a lot of 20s, a lot of 30s? Are they geniuses? Are they in the 2%? Are we growing in creativity? Is it depressing to you, this question, or enlightening?
I thought we talked about we hire smarter people than me, right? So this may be better for them who, didn't have that challenge. But, I actually think that the biggest gap we see with kids coming out of college is ability to think on their own. Mm-hmm. So, and that's to me, business creativity is problem-solving skills. So you see a lot of very textbook smart, a lot of hardworking smart, a lot of really great talent that has never been challenged to think. And that, to me, is where our education system is failing most us as a company. Because we're problem solving. That's what we do. And if it's not linear, they're challenged. And to learn to them to play a game of chess, they all can play checkers. But very few of them understand the game of chess, understands the decision trees of every decision, the 6 steps ahead, the likely reactions of the other side. And we spend a lot of time. We have a magical day at Red Ventures. It's my favorite day. It's our business review day. It happens once a month. We come up with 25 topics. It's 20 minutes per topic. It's 2 layers down, 3 layers down. They'll come in, no charge, no anything. They'll come in and say, here's a problem I'm working on. Here's the data. Here's why I failed. Here's why I succeeded. Here's why I'm struggling. It's open to anybody. So you have hundreds of people that you can stream it. You can do everything, and it's our university. It's the day that we teach everybody how to think, because we're there to ask questions. And to me, ultimately, is teaching them to ask questions. What's the right question we're not asking? And I spend a lot of time in our meetings saying, well, so what's the question we're missing? And that, to me, is the lack of, or the creativity gap that I see from where I sit. I'm not a creative person in a traditional way in terms of arts and so forth, but I think business teaches you a lot of flexibility in your brain.
Yeah, so you would like to know that we agree with you at HPU University. We also believe that liberal arts plays a huge role in what you've just cited, that while preparing students for professional careers may be important, it's of equal importance that we take students from that level of horizontal thinking, which is really what you're talking about, linear thinking, to vertical thinking and diagonal thinking. Not just be problem solvers, but be solution finders. And there is a measurable difference. So at HPU University, for example, the way we address that, this is just one example. Lego International, we've partnered with them. We've created a Lego lab here in our School of Education. And we enable, not just teach, but enable the students to learn how to enable their students when they go out to teach to be problem solvers, decision makers, think at layers beneath the surface, and so on. I do think, Rick and Kelly and Bonnie, that institutions of higher learning and schools at all levels have an absolute responsibility to predict what it is we need in the world in the future, and to create and resource programs in ways that produce graduates who are ready to meet the challenges of a very competitive world that is competing on a global platform. And I think we do this here very, very well, which may explain why you hire so many of our graduates. Let me publicly thank you for that. And I hope you'll do more of it as you grow 30% next year. But I think it's a very good point he makes, Bonnie, that the whole issue of creativity is not just about graphics and writing and so on, but it really stems from your soul, how you look at issues, how you define them, how you attack them. Do you agree?
I agree. I think I want to rephrase my comment about my financial people right now. I do think that you are, there is creativity and opportunity and everything, but you're right. If you always are in an environment where you have been taught these are the rules, this is the way you do it, people fall in line, and I think they give up a great percentage of their opportunities, and can you imagine the possibilities that are lost to companies? So I think, of course, we're a creative organization, so we live and breathe by that. But that doesn't, it doesn't mean that, I guess we can always improve on that, Nido. And I think that if you look at the products that we have, the great thing about our creativity is we get to see it every month, whether it's for Verizon or Walmart or the companies that we represent. What we do, we get to see.
It's tangible.
We can then step back from it and fix it, improve it, and so that we're always engaged in the process. I think sometimes creating something that's creative that you don't see for a long period of time, we get that instant gratification. So I think it's very important.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. Kelly, the hang-up I have about this whole thing of developing leaders and feeding their minds and their souls and preparing them for futures that are filled with success and framed with significance really lies for me in two English words. And that is the difference between training people and educating people. And I think there's a measurable difference. I think when we train people, we show them the how. We show them what to do. When we educate people, we show them the why. We show them how to be. And doesn't leadership really come from a state of being, not merely a state of doing?
Well, it does, and part of it is just kind of philosophical. So for example, I say at our company that there are only 3 things that are non-negotiable. It's our vision, our mission, and our values, our culture. Everything else is strategic and tactical, and they change all the time, and I have no vest in them. What we did yesterday may or may not work tomorrow, and I don't care, as long as we accomplish our vision and our mission consistent with our values. And so that creates a certain kind of openness and willingness to make mistakes, to try things. But I'll tell you, we're all fighting a societal dilemma here. And the societal dilemma is that we teach our kids growing up, I think very incorrectly, that what they should be focusing on is achievement and not happiness. And so what we find is that people come through K through 12, they go through college, and I was just talking to some of the students outside here before this, and they're really just focused on, well, if I could have your job, if I could make as much money as you make, how big is your house, how big is your car. We get all so focused on all of these achievement markers in life. And then you've had this experience, I know I have. Many times you talk to people that are near life's end, and they'll tell you that it's so sad because they finally realize it's not a dress rehearsal. It's not about what you achieve, it's how you achieved it. It's not about how many assets you have, it's how you got what you got. And so playing the game in a way so that you create a sense of self-esteem, a sense of happiness, a sense of pride is what we're all trying to accomplish. Well, you can be just as happy cleaning this rug every night as you can be being CEO of a major marketing company, in my humble opinion, if that's what makes you happy. But we have a hard time in our society today. So I think we in academia, you in academia, I don't want to be in academia, you in academia, we in the professional world, we have a challenge, I think, Bonnie, to help kind of get a different perspective on that. But I know when we hire a couple of hundred college students a year, and they come in and they are linearly thinking, you know, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I'm doing what my parents said I'm supposed to be doing, I go to school, I get good grades, I get a good job, I get a house, I get a car. And they're going down that road, and somewhere along the way they hit this really big wall, and they say, whoa, wait, what's happening? That didn't make me happy. And then they get depressed and frustrated. And along the way, they're losing that sense of creativity because you can't be trying to optimize achievement as long if you could be willing to make all these mistakes. But if you're just focusing on trying to be happy, make mistakes, have fun, go for it. You'll probably achieve a lot anyway, but that's not the purpose. So I think we have a huge societal challenge, but that's our job as leaders to try to fix it.
Absolutely. And I think it's also part of leadership is to take it beyond, as all 3 of you have done abundantly so, to take it beyond the realm of your immediate zone, i.e. your business, your company, to the community at large, to society at large. I think we all have a responsibility to make our world a better place, to make the society and the communities in which we live better places. And each of you has done that in such significant ways. For example, Bonnie, when you were the U.S. ambassador, you began these World Business Leaders Summits. And if I recall, and I may be misstating the facts, but if I recall, you held them in different parts of the world, and you attracted all these business women to enlighten others and to educate others and to create passion and purpose around it. I also remember you took your influence and your relational capital to enhance Alexis de Tocqueville Society, to take it from the local city, and you did amazing things with that in your home city of Greensboro, and then nationally, and if I think the number is right in my head, some $1 billion was raised because of that. So do you agree with me that, obviously you agree with me, that we have to go beyond our immediate zones of business influence to the world at large? What do you believe is the role of a leader, and how much of one's time and energy ought to be sacrificed or pleasurably and pleasingly devoted to it?
Well, I think ultimately some of us on this stage have less years in front of us than we do behind us, so we have an opportunity to be a little retrospective. But I think that I have found basically that there are only 3 things that ultimately matter, and that's relationships, experiences, and memories. And that's what we have. So the opportunity, and I'm going to be very straightforward, the United Way $1 billion women's leadership giving that was begun in this triad and did raise its billionth dollar from women in communities all over America this year, was started because I'm a marketing person, and at PACE we understand segmentation. So my mother always says, can you just please tell, if you talk about all these women, can you just tell people you like men? But I want to tell you that I focused on women's giving. And I'll never forget being at a conference and a man saying, oh, that's such a horrible idea. Women don't give. And I thought, well, you know, women don't give if women aren't asked. And so I had the privilege of putting that into effect. And then the Women Business Leaders Summits that were all over. We did it in Finland for Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Russia, in Finland, and then I did it again. We did it in Russia, in Latvia, but then we did it in the Middle East, and we went to Jordan. We did it for women from Iraq, Palestine, Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, Lebanon, Syria, Bahrain, and UAE. And we brought 50 women CEOs, always in this case, from the United States. And they partnered with 50 women from those countries in the same business, then came back to America, went to their businesses with them, worked for 3 days, and then to Washington to meet with the President of the United States, Secretary of State, and to talk about how we could create more jobs. Because I think you're right, how do we give back? And I know a lot of young people ask me, because I am chairman of the board of the Red Cross, oh, I want to work for a not-for-profit. And my advice is always, please don't at first. Go get skills. Not-for-profits need real skills. They need business leaders, they need lawyers, they need accountants, they need people who can contribute in a tangible way to their success. So I personally believe that one of the most important things for the young people here is that one of the most important things you can do as part of your business career is to serve on a board in your community. Volunteer. Because the people that I actually met on my journey, many of them I didn't meet directly through my business. I met them through the relationships that were developed because I was willing to serve. So whether it was the $1 Billion Women's Giving or the Women's Leadership Program, or now as chairman of the board of the Red Cross, I think that we finally realized that the only thing we ever keep is what we give away.
So true. William Barclay, Scottish theologian, I thought said that better than anybody. He said, always give without remembering, always receive without forgetting. Mm-hmm. Kelly, which leads me to the Lighthouse Project. I've read about the great success that BB&T's employees have had in the communities in which they work with something that you have named the Lighthouse Project. What is it, and how does leadership play a role in it, and what difference has it made?
So 5 years ago, when the recession was really starting, and I was traveling around to meet with our associates and sit around for breakfasts and lunches, I was really struck by the difficulties that people were going through. Typically not our associates, because fortunately we didn't have lots of layoffs, and we didn't cut benefits, but you know, somebody's brother just lost their job, somebody was really sick, somebody had all these difficult challenges with their kids and nowhere to take them to get, and I could see the agony on their faces. And as literally as I was flying back home after that meeting, I thought two things. One, we have to do something here. We have to, this is a call to action. We cannot stand by and watch our communities suffer without trying to help. And I want to do something to help our associates feel better, because they were agonizing over the difficulties of their friends and their communities. And so we created this concept we call the Lighthouse. I hope many of you in the audience in the business world would even think about using it. It's a phenomenal concept as it has turned out. So what we did was we just said we're going to allocate, we started out with we're going to allocate $100 per associate We're going to let you get together in teams at your own choice. So say 20 people get together as a team. They have a couple $1,000s. Here's the only thing. You can't just go write a check to an organization. You have to go work on company paid time. So find a project in the community that you're interested in. We don't have to approve it. You go do it and go work in the community and do good. We didn't know how it would go, because we said we're not making anybody this strictly volunteer. But it has been phenomenal, number one, in terms of the amount of good we've done. So we've done over 1,300 projects, touched over 7 million people in places like YMCA and Children's Center and Ronald McDonald houses and different, all across the country. It's incredible the amount of feedback we've gotten in terms of how much good, because you take 20 people and a couple $1,000s and free labor, you can do a lot of work in a day. So we go out, like our executive team did ours at Ronald McDonald House. We spent the whole day. We did landscaping, we did painting, I cleaned windows, we did everything in the world. Anything they want us to do, we did. But you can get a lot done. So that was good. But the thing that impressed me more than I expected was the positive benefit to our associates. Because many of our associates, because of the level they work at in the company, they never had the opportunity to go out and volunteer, Bonnie, to your point. They never had that enriching feeling of going out and working all day, coming home really dirty and tired and sweaty, but deep down inside feeling like a piece of gold because you saw the eyes of the people that you helped and you had that great feeling. And it's just been phenomenal. We did not do it to get any publicity. I specifically told our PR people, we're not publicizing this. That's not our purpose. We're doing this to help our communities, and we hope so, in so doing, that our associates will be enriched. And it's turned out to be a really big success. So thanks for asking. It's been something we're very proud of.
It taught them a lot about leadership, and it in an indirect way, it taught the others about leadership and how leaders do care.
So you're right. And so what happens is they'll rotate leaders. So a group will get together as 20, and Susie will say, well, I'd like to be the leader. Yeah. Great. So she has to plan the project. She has to buy the materials. She has to organize it. And she may be a teller. She may never have run anything in her life, but she gets that enrichment experience as well.
In North Carolina, the institutions of higher learning do a lot of things sometimes we don't know about. One of them is there's an organization called Campus Compact, which has about 34 or 35 institutions as members. And it promotes exactly what you're talking about. It promotes service learning. We have a full program at HPU University, resourced in a full center called Service Learning, where our students give 50,000 hours a year to help the community in the triad. And the idea is to enrich, as you said, to enrich their lives, because sometimes by giving, you also become a better person. Rick, because of your own upbringing, you have been inspired in a very special way to help young people go to college. I know that we have several students at HPU University that you are paying their way. And you have a special desire to help students with special needs to go to college. It fits right into this discussion about growing leaders and how successful leaders are planting seeds of greatness in the minds, hearts, and souls of others. Tell us about that program.
So, to whom much is given, much is expected. And if you don't view this as anything more than I view it as a responsibility. I have achieved more than I thought possible, and I view it as something of a responsibility. At Red Ventures, and I'll get to Golden Door Scholars in a second, we've done a similar thing where our belief is that community work should be employee driven. So we've created a process by which our employees can all get supported, both financially and hourly. And we've done some amazing work. And it is amazing because I believe this generation is seeking a different level of connection to the community than our generation. And maybe it has to do with their belief that they may not do as well financially as their parents. Maybe it has to do with some other macro trend. But I think it's something that makes even a bigger difference in the younger generation as they are able to tie their life and their work in kind of in the same sentence. To me, Golden Door Scholars is an organization that we founded a year ago, and it actually predates 5 years. I knew a young man since he was 6 years old there was a terrific young man. As a senior in high school, this time of the year, I asked him where he was going to college, and he said that he wasn't. And I knew he was a very smart young man, and I said, why not? And he goes, well, I'm going to work in the same kitchen my dad works. I said, aren't you like number 5 in your class? And he goes, no, I'm number 2. And it struck me. It was like, you know, there's something that doesn't meet the eye here. So I asked his mom, and he goes, Mr. Elias, I'm surprised you don't know, but we're undocumented. And as undocumented, kids can't really afford to go to college because they don't get in-state tuition and they don't get any federal financial aid. So it's a multi-$100 million responsibility that they can ill afford to do. And if you look at the numbers, they're just staggering. There's over 1 million undocumented kids in our country today under the age of 18. Less than 5% of them will go to college. Their dropout rates out of high school is more than 50% because they see the older sibling not being able to go to college or do anything. They end up in other systems, in our penitentiary system, in our welfare system, and lots of other ways that makes no sense. And these kids are caught in a political nightmare. You know, this is caught in immigration. You know, sure, their parents may have broken a law, but since when we hold kids accountable for other people's, crimes? So I put this kid through college. The greatest story. He graduated from UNC in May. Degrees in chemistry and computer science and a minor in math with a 3.9 GPA. You tell me if he won't make his life better, his family's lives better, his community, our country better, right? But all along, what I realized is, even though I was supporting him and a few other people, these kids couldn't get jobs because there was another law that said that it didn't matter, you had to leave the country for 10 years. And then last July, President Obama passed a law, the Defer Action, where they can get a work permit. So I remember reading the article with tremendous joy, but then a sense of, okay, I'm out of excuses, right? Because now these kids can get jobs. So we started Golden Door Scholars, and we put one newspaper article in the paper, and we call the best universities, and I really appreciate your partnership, and said, hey, we think we're going to send 5 kids to school, and I donated some money, and we wanted to learn. We built a website, we built a process. In 30 days, we had 500 applicants. The top 60 had over a 4.0. And we sat around and invited the top 20, which is everything I hope my kids become. And we sat around and we said, how are we going to pick the top 5? And we couldn't. And we said, well, how much money do we have? And that's, we have 13 college freshmen this year across the Carolinas. And we just announced last week that we're doing a round 2, so I'm matching up to another $1 million because the need is that great. The sad part is I thought this would be the shortest charity ever, and that immigration reform will pass, and this great, students will have hope, which is what, our country's all about, and public education is about access and is about affordability, and neither of those exist. So it's a journey, and it's been great. I'm humbled by not only what they have overcome and they've accomplished, but by their aspirations, and it's been great. It's been a group of Red Ventures employees. We've worked Saturdays and Sundays, and we didn't know what we were getting into, but it's been a lot of fun.
I believe that part of leadership is to tell the truth. And to tell the truth to young people is the highest order of leadership. This is why institutions of higher education, like our university here, has a responsibility of not just creating confidence in young people, because that's motivational in nature, but rather creating that from which confidence could come, which is competence. That if we are going to compete in an open marketplace called the world, then we have to ensure that we are competent at what we do. So competence leads to confidence. Confidence leads to commitment. Commitment leads to all kinds of great things. The real definition of competence is going through a transition. We are transforming the meaning of the word competence. That is to say, technology has entered the marketplace in a big way. Companies have had to go from print to digital, et cetera. And you can imagine how universities are having to deal with all these changes in a mega way, in the classroom and outside the classroom. That's why experiential learning and values-based living are fundamentals to that which leads to a degree, called a college degree. To me, one of the most important things that we can do as leaders is to take the right messages to the right audiences as frequently as possible. The right audiences are young people in colleges, high school students, and society at large. That's exactly what you're doing here this afternoon. That's why all of us at Hype University are very grateful to you, Ric Elias, and we salute you for all your great achievements. And to you, Kelly King, and for all the incredible accomplishments at BB&T and in society. And to you, Bonnie McElveen-Hunter, for showing us that it can be done and that you can bury the can't and think that the last four letters of the word American are the letters I can. I thank each of you for being with us this afternoon on the campus of High Point University, and I thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening in.
High Point University presents Lessons in Leadership, a Roundtable Discussion is a production of UNC-TV in association with High Point University.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.